Hi everyone, welcome back again to my YouTube channel, Natural Living by Enovi, where I show you how easy it is to prepare your favorite meals, baked items, smoothies, healthy juices, and some vegan meals too. My focus is always on a healthy lifestyle, so check out my videos on healthy lifestyle tips, self-care, home care, jewelry making, and discussions on how to maintain a positive mindset. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Thanks for watching. Yeah, man. Okay, here I have a half of a large chicken, washed in vinegar and lime juice and rinsed off with water. And I added about a dozen pimento seeds. I'm gonna add some salt, a little less than a half a teaspoon. I might add more later because I'm gonna add Irish potatoes. And I'm gonna add my other seasonings. I'm sorry, but I wasn't recording. I thought I was recording. I added a 1 teaspoon of dried herbs and spices, 1 teaspoon of meat spice. I'm gonna add about some black pepper, about a half a teaspoon of black pepper. And I added a half a teaspoon of chicken spice and a teaspoon of Mrs. Dash. I added those already, but I didn't realize I wasn't recording. I'm gonna mix this up. I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator, in the freezer, until I'm ready to cook my curry chicken. You don't have to put any curry on there at this point because I usually brown my curry in the oil, but I'm just gonna add just a little bit so I have a little curry infused in it. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just gonna add a little bit of curry, and I'm using this container because I'm just gonna cover it and freeze it. So if you do this, say you go to work and you come home and it's late, you could put this container in the microwave and thaw everything, and then you start cooking. So it's good to have some of these Pyrex containers. Okay, I'm gonna add a little curry, not too much because I'm gonna add more later on. Just a little sprinkling over each piece of the chicken, maybe about a teaspoon. And I'm gonna mix that up and put it in the freezer. So if you can still do it like this if you're gonna be cooking the curry chicken on the same day. You don't have to be soaking overnight and all of that, because remember, everything is simmering down in the sauce. So once you give it a nice slow simmer, everything will be infused. It doesn't matter if you soak it overnight or not. It's different from like fried chicken. So, but if you feel comfortable, you can season it like about 3 hours or so before, if you prefer that way, before you cook it. That's fine. Okay, I'm gonna use about a half a head of garlic. So it's up to you if you want to use more or use less, but I'm just using this. I'm gonna take 3 cloves first. I've separated them. I'm gonna take 3 cloves and mince that up. I have a medium to large onion. You can use a larger onion if you like. The more the better, but not too much. You can use a larger onion. So I'm gonna use a quarter of this onion. I'm gonna use all of it, but I'm gonna use a quarter of it first. So I'm gonna cut up this quarter. Okay, so I'm gonna take out this, I have the garlic which I had minced before. I'm gonna take out a quarter of the onion and put it in here. Then I'm gonna put the rest of the onion in a container for later. I'm gonna put this aside, and then the remaining garlic, I'm gonna cut those up. And I have about a large stalk of scallion, green onion, same thing. Using 2 sprigs of thyme. I have 1 large Irish potato or medium. If you want to use a larger one than this, you can. I'm just gonna peel it. Don't peel it too deeply because you waste it when you peel it too deeply. Okay, I finished peeling the Irish potato, then I just go back over and look for any little pieces of the skin which are left. Clean it up nicely. I washed it thoroughly before. If it's up to you, you can rinse it again if you want. So I'm gonna cut this up now. Okay, so I'm gonna cut it up in some cubes. And I have a bowl here with some water, and just enough water to cover the potatoes because I'm not gonna use them immediately, but I just want to get the prepping out of the way. So you don't have to cut them too small or too large, about 1 inch size cube. Depends on how you like it. Just put them in the water until I'm ready for them. Okay, I'm gonna use a teaspoon of curry powder. If you're curious, I'm using this bahola, as I like this one. There's another one I like, but I'm not seeing it right now in the stores. I like this too. I'm using a teaspoon of turmeric. So I had added about a teaspoon of curry to the chicken when I use about that, not too much. I'll use just that. I used about a teaspoon of curry when I was seasoning the chicken, or maybe about a half a teaspoon. I'm adding about 1/3 of a teaspoon of some dried coriander. And I'm gonna add my seasoning. So when you add the seasoning to the curry before, it doesn't burn easily, because you know the curry will burn easily in the oil. I'm gonna add just enough oil to cover the curry and the seasoning, maybe about 2 tablespoons, not too much. Then I'm gonna turn on the stove and let it gently heat up. I want it to just gently burn. I don't want it to just burn fast and then get bitter. So this is the chicken which I had pre-seasoned, and I just left it to thaw out. Here I'm letting the curry fry out a little. So you know when it's ready when you really start to smell the aroma of the curry nicely. So don't put it on high and then you're all in a rush unless you're cooking a lot of food and you're outside and you can't control the stove. Just enough heat to gently fry it, because remember the curry burns very easily and it spoils the flavor if you let the curry burn. I'm gonna add the chicken now. Stir it a little. Okay, if there isn't much water in the chicken, you can just add just a little bit of water, not much, because we're gonna dry out all the water. Just a little bit of water, so that the chicken doesn't stick. With my part, that's how I do it. Okay, so I covered it for just about 2 minutes or so, and you see it start to spring a little water. And I turn it again, so it's on like a little low moderate heat, on the lower side of moderate, because I want it to gently cook and gently, you're not really browning it, but browning it in the curry, if there is such a term. So just turn it. Okay, so it's springing a little water. If you see it not springing the water, you can add just a little bit more water. So it all depends on the chicken. Okay, you want to have about this amount of water at this stage in there. So if you don't have that water, you add a little bit. Okay, because you want the curry to get into the chicken at this point without it burning, or without the chicken burning. So let me cover that back for another couple minutes. Okay, so here we are. See, because I turn it on low, the chicken spring its own water, so I don't have to add any more water yet. So I'm gonna let this water dry out. I'm gonna turn it back a little. So if you keep it on low, the chicken will spring its own water, because that's the thing, you know, when you cook meat and you don't have that nice fresh taste, if you have a little rawness to it, it's because you don't let that water that comes in the meat itself, you have to let that water dry out, and then you can add your water, but you have to let the water in the meat that springs up, you have to let that dry out. So always remember that, and you won't have any raw meat when you cook. Some people would add their seasoning at this point, But that's not what I do. This is where I add a little extra water now to let the chicken cook down nicely before I add my seasoning. So I'm going to add some water now. And let the chicken cook. This is about a cup of water. So it also depends. If the chicken was cut up smaller, you could maybe have just put in your seasoning and then you add the water. But because the chicken is not cut up that small, I want it to cook properly. I want it to be falling off the bone tender. I'm gonna put in the Irish potato now. I'm gonna add the seasoning. Ouch. Then I have to stir. So I'm gonna let the water dry out again. Not not fully, but just so the seasoning can get that little frying up to give it the real flavor. Because if you just boil the seasoning, you won't get the right flavor. So when you see the water is almost fully dried out, now is where the seasoning starts to give off the real flavor. I'm gonna add some pepper, not too much. Okay, so this is good now. I'm just gonna add just a little bit of water to make up the gravy, just a little, so I won't have my seasoning being too boiled out. So everything is nice and cooked now. I just need a little gravy. So the key is to not boil out your seasoning too long, because that makes it lose a lot of the flavor. You could put a whole Scotch bonnet in there, but I only have some large ones, so I didn't want to put a whole large one in there. Here we are, curry chicken is ready. Making some basmati rice. I have some water, 50 grams of coconut powder, about little less than a quarter teaspoon of salt, a little black pepper, a little adobo seasoning, a little Mrs. Dash, and a little all-purpose seasoning. And I am gonna just boil some pasta in this. So I've added 100 grams of my favorite pasta, one of my favorite pasta, and now I'm gonna let them boil. Once the pasta is a little boiled, not fully boiled, I just add some of the leftover curry chicken. I'm gonna mix this up, let it heat up, and then by the time everything is thoroughly heated, the pasta should be ready. Another 25 grams of coconut cream so that it could be a little creamier. So I'm just simmering it now, so it will soon be ready. And here we are now, nice and creamy. Here we are now, looking so yummy.